Hey, I know what you want. I got what you need. Ken Carson, more chaos.
Hello one, hello all. We all know why Orange Man pardoned Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's not act like we don't. Ghost of them all, Casper in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Ken Carson, More Chaos. This is the fourth full-length album from rapper Ken Carson, who is part of Playboi Carti's OPIUM label, and a rapper who's well respected, beloved by OPIUM fans, mostly Playboi Carti fans, mostly the Destroy Lonely fans. And I've reviewed his work before. I've actually reviewed his debut album, and I gave it a 0 because I absolutely got nothing out of it whatsoever. I thought he had no originality, no personality, and lyrically vacant in many respects. And the production was just so one-dimensional. And overall, I just found it completely obnoxious with inescapable distortion. And while distortion is not a bad thing, I have nothing against white noise, I have nothing against something too staticky or fuzzy, but it just felt like it was there. It didn't really add anything to his artistry whatsoever. And vocally, I didn't find his vocals distinct or stand out or memorable whatsoever. I couldn't even tell you a hook that was memorable on that whole album, and I've listened to it quite a few times. Like, I really just found him to be a lesser version of his contemporaries. However, I did see improvement on his last LP, A Great Chaos, where there were some bars there, not like mind-blowing bars, but still bars, and some memorable hooks too, some production choices, which I found to be interesting. But that was only parts of some tracks. Overall, I just found the thing to just be very underwhelming. And upon listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, will these fans look at this as like a bygone era? Will people look at this as like the Limp Bizkit of their generation? And I say that mostly as someone who does enjoy some Limp Bizkit, not their whole albums, but some songs off of them. Like, will fans go back and say, yeah, that album wasn't really that great, but there were some good songs on there. But I get it. With this generation, they just want to hear something, I guess, loud, immediate, something with energy. But the thing that catches me is that, like, I really don't think this is, again, like the most unique or standout or even that loud at all. It's just blaring distortion that's not even that epic to me. It's not even that strong to me. Like, I really don't get that outside of a couple tracks here. Like, I don't think he's as consistently wild and eccentric or has that elastic vocal as Young Thug. And is his production as cinematic or as engaging or psychedelic as a track? And do I think he's as versatile or catchy as Playboi Carti? No. And again, as far as the distortion on the production, he's not really adding anything unique to a point where I understand why. And it's not even as demented or hellish as like a Cemetery record. To me, it just sounds like an excuse for just really bad mixing. And I know people watching this who are not into this type of music, or even people who are, probably looking at me like, hey, Cass, why are you subjecting yourself to this? Why speak on something you don't like? The reason why is due to the fact that as much as I don't enjoy this as much or at all, it really does create discourse. It really does create topics, and I feel as a music journalist, it's important for me and other music journalists to speak on this for relevancy's sake, for discourse sake, and also in terms of rage music in general, and due to it being so popular and so prolific, I really do think that this needs to be touched on. And I feel this needs to be touched on due to the fact there's high demand for this. As somebody in my comments asked me to review Ken Carson's last LP, and that ship pretty much sailed. But I'm reviewing this now, and I'm trying to give my thoughts on it. I'm trying to be as fair as I can be, and I will be fair. And as always, I'm going to be honest about how I feel about this record, whether you love it or hate it. Because to be fair, there are moments where he does come through with personality and energy. Because to be fair, there are moments where he does come through with personality and energy, like on Live Leak, where he does this very unhinged, like half laugh, half grunt, like And as he's doing like these sinister laughs, he's also doing it over this very zany, insane production. And I would say it genuinely does have a nice beat switch, and genuinely something I'm bobbing my head to and actually being enthralled by, actually gaining energy from this track. And Dismantled, I would only say, not only has a solid hook, but I do love the sour synth chords. And the song Thanks is probably the only song that you will get out of Ken Carson's catalog where he actually sounds focused here, where he actually has substance, and where he sounds genuine here, like he's genuinely thanking his fans, his family, the drugs, basically anything that brought him to where he is today, who made him who he is today. Pretty much anything who's contributed to his success. And honestly, I find that commendable. And the song 2000s, I enjoy the bright synths. I enjoy the booming bass. I think they coalesce well on that track. I do appreciate the brighter synth moments on here. I just wish it wasn't so repetitious. I just wish there was something to break up the monotony. So while it is melodic, there are likable parts of some songs, but that doesn't exactly mean I enjoy the whole thing. Because I find myself pointing out the cons and opposed to the pros on a majority of these tracks. Because there are some songs that don't either sound finished, or some songs that just sound like he's taking us on like this rambling detour, like on the song Naked. Or failed love ballads like Kryptonite. And upon listening to his catalog, it's really no secret this man is not the ideal ballad guy. I feel like he tries but just fails miserably, and I think this is a great example of that. Honestly, I think this would have been a better fit for Lil Uzi, if I'm being honest, because there are some very toxic, concerning bars here about how he's dating this woman and how because of him that she's the only reason she's staying alive and staying on this earth, but like meanwhile he's cheating on her. Nice guy. Or he has some bars that are just painfully on the nose, like painfully obvious, and it's just like, I'm a real rock star, I make art, I'm an artist, Mozart, spend $500,000 on the MIP, I'm gonna drive like go-kart. Why? And while I'm not crazy about the track K-Hole, I can say that there is some clever wordplay here. Put in autopilot, got my wings, I'm flying, she gon' top me up. And there are times where he can be animated here. There are times where the hooks are catchy. But even when they are catchy, that does not take away from how repetitious and tedious entire tracks on this LP could be. And I think a perfect example of that would be the opener, Lord of Chaos, or how unbearably distorted the bass could be, or how unintelligible he could sound like on Exposed, or sometimes where he sounds beyond comatose like on 200 KASH. Like, look, I can't tell if the guy's high out of his mind or sleep deprived, but one of us has to stay awake here. But I will admit there are songs here that do segue nicely into each other. But in terms of nice things to say about this LP, I don't really think I could say any more, to be honest. Because as I said, there's a lot of harsh moments that are faux harsh. They're not harsh, they're just annoying. And it's not like they're so harsh that they're terrifying or adrenaline pumping either. It's just honestly boring most of the time and underwhelming. And this thing just goes on way too long. 22 tracks, an hour and 1 minute. And honestly, this could have ended at 2000. That could have been like the roll credits moment. But no, we get the weak closer, which is an OPIUM cut. But I will say it is the most cleanly produced track on here. You do get the 8-bit synth lines. And with this being Ken Carson's album, he barely stands out on his own track, and Destroy Lonely doesn't even stand out much either. The only verse that stands out, the only feature that stands out is the Playboi Carti verse, and for the wrong reason. And it stands out due to the fact that he's just copying Future. He's just unapologetically copying Future. It sounds like he just typed, "Make me a Future verse" in ChatGPT. So yeah, while there are moments where Ken did branch out vocally, And while he has a little bit of substance at some points, and some songs do have memorable hooks, a majority of these tracks just lack cohesion. It's like we rarely get tracks that have all the pros, meet all the criteria to make bangers. Because a lot of these bangers do not bang. Because not every hook on here is memorable. Not every song on here sounds finished. And the production is mostly underwhelming with this unnecessary amount of bass that doesn't even add any thickness to it. Just sounds like it's there. Like all it does really is just paint Ken Carson into a corner. But I can say this is the most enjoyable Ken Carson album, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be one of my favorites of the year, but not necessarily one of my worst either. But from here, I definitely hope there's more improvement. I'm feeling a 1.5 out of 5 on this album, but if you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? I'm Caspa, I'm your plug, this is my opinion. If you hate it, your view's still a dub. I want to give a shout out to CHILLI, PSYCHOIMAGE Films. If you're into big special effects, if you're into that type of thing in anime, that's the place for you. Also want to give a shout out to BBYAZUL, check out his album Creation Story. And a shout out to Al Green, who is speaking on the atrocities going on in Gaza right now. And that's it. Be a subscriber. That would be fire. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Ken Carson. More chaos till we meet again.